another scarce week in terms of meeting as the town continues to gear up for town meeting. The Recreation Department announces some new activities for the upcoming break, all as cold weather continues to hit the town of Plymouth. All this and more coming up on This Week in Plymouth. Hello and welcome to another edition of This Week in Plymouth. I'm your host, Jonathan Picard. The Town Select Board met on Monday, January 30th, where they hosted their first round of public hearings for the town budget. Along with the budget, 2 warrant articles were also up for discussion that night. The first of the 2 articles was for the board to raise and appropriate funds for a solar array for $686,000.
Select Board's holding this public hearing in accordance with RSA 33:8-A(1) to allow the board to take public input and discuss a warrant article which will be placed on the 2023-2024 fiscal year town warrant. This warrant article seeks Plymouth voters' approval to allow the Select Board to negotiate the issuance of bonds, loans, or notices not to exceed the amount of $686,000. These funds, if approved by the voters, will be utilized to place a solar array on property owned by the town of Plymouth.
What we've kind of cobbled together is an array that will generate power, and once a year fed onto the grid, and once a year the co-op would cut a check to the town. So it's actually a revenue generating project. The first year there'll be a bit of a lag time between the issuance of a bond, obviously going through the town meeting, and if approved, construction will begin. And really we won't start to see financial benefit until we receive a couple things. One would be what we are eligible for is a 40%, up to 40% savings through the Inflation Reduction Act, and then a $10,000 Public Utility Commission rebate.
I would like to just reiterate that all of the assumptions that we have used before have been quite conservative, and as we move forward, the Inflation Reduction Act is happening. There are programs rolling out. Guidance on what we're looking for is still pending, but is anticipated to be out anytime. So it's really not an iffy idea anymore.
So if we can get return on investment and to do something good to help our Earth to survive the pending warming of it, I think it's a win-win.
I have a couple of written praises. One is entitled Solar Proposal Discussion at tonight's meeting. It's Dear Select Board members, because I am not able to attend tonight's Select Board meeting, I am submitted to you this letter to let you know that I support the bond for the solar project to be put before the voters at town meeting. And it's sincerely Linda Walsh of Plymouth. And the second is from Honorable Joyce Weston. And Joyce couldn't be here tonight as well, but she thanks us for the opportunity to speak in support of the warrant article. And for the record, her name is Joyce Weston. She's a 19-year resident of Plymouth and former representative to the New Hampshire House. She's proud to say that she installed 27 solar panels on their roof 6 years ago, and the savings on her electric bill have been substantial. For 3 months during the last summer, they had credit from the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative rather than having to write a check. The town has an opportunity now to enjoy the same kind of savings on its municipal electric usage.
The second article was for the board to raise and appropriate funds for the downtown South Main Street drainage project in the total of $1.8 million.
Select Board's holding this public hearing in accordance with RSA 33:8-A(1) to allow the board to take public input and discuss a warrant article which will be placed on the 2023-2024 fiscal year town warrant. This warrant article will seek voters' approval to allow the Select Board to negotiate the issuance of bonds, loans, or notes not to exceed the amount of $1,800,000. These funds, if approved, will be utilized as the additional funding needed by the town of Plymouth to proceed with the downtown South Main Street drainage project. This project will consist of construction of stormwater infrastructure on South Main, Russell, and Warren Streets. Improvements include approximately 1,750 linear feet of new stormwater pipeline and associated structures. Additional work includes the reconstruction of all 3 roads and the installation of new sidewalks. Lighting upgrades are included for a portion of Main Street. This project currently has funding of $2.7 million from EDA and $960,000 from the town. Bid opening for this project took place on Friday, January 27th, 2023. If the amount needed to complete this project comes in less than anticipated, the amount of this bond, loan, or note can be amended on the floor at town meeting.
So I believe it was in 2020, the town of Plymouth completed a preliminary engineering review of the stormwater drainage in the South Main Street and Russell Street areas. The study led to an application to the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Agency, also known as EDA. We applied for funding to reconstruct all the stormwater drainage, and this is all the catch basins and pipes under the streets primarily. To reconstruct the drainage in this area. And the project total cost estimate at that time was around $3.5 million. For projects like this, federal agencies will typically grant funds for up to 80%. They don't do 100%, it's only 80%. And so in spring of 2021, we were grateful to get an award of $2.7 million from EDA for the project.
We have a lot of failures that come down through starting up on Pleasant and come down onto Russell, and there's no drainage on one section of Russell, so it goes down over onto Main Street and it crosses over and it goes into a private section of town which we have no control over. And so all this drainage is in areas that we can't control. So before this project even came along, I knew that I had to do something with Russell Street, so I put that on the agenda ahead of schedule to try to deal with that water before we got to South Main Street. But when this came along, there was enough money to add that into it. And so, but the total overall infrastructure is completely failed.
I think it's a terrific project. It's long overdue. When we open up the ground, I think Joe and June are right. I think we have pipes that we don't know where they're going, other than they're undermining the structure of the street.
When you have pipes this old, you have manganese deposits built up in the pipes, which reduce the amount of flow, and that is a very problematic situation for firefighting, and the amount of water available to fight fires, and also if you put a lot of stress on those pipes, you're going to have failures.
Finally, the public hearings concluded with the current proposed budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
And this is the first public hearing on the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget review and explanation of the proposed budget. We have copies, detailed copies of the budget in the back for folks to look at. We're also going to step through it. We've kind of summarized it by group in a slide deck, which we think will help anybody who's watching this back on YouTube afterwards, or anybody who's in the audience, to kind of understand what we're looking at here. So, overall summary here: if every single thing that is on the warrant is approved, every warrant article, everything, it's a pretty substantial increase. That total increase would look like $2.47. This comes in a few key areas. And we're going to walk through these in a lot more detail. But the first is some kind of generalized increases. This comes from things like the 2.5% wage increase for employees, both unionized and regular town employees, that's factored in. Some general inflation, especially impacting things like heating, fuel, electricity, pretty significant impacts there. And then finally, we did our wage study a year and a half ago, 2 years ago,
2020.
And I think this is the final-ish wave. I think probably actually the final wave of getting all of those alignments in place, in particular with the highway department. So those are kind of the general increases. There's also going to be on the warrant, as individual warrant articles, 3 new proposed positions: a new firefighter, a new dispatcher, a new police officer. Each of those have significant cost when you think about benefits and such. And then finally, capital projects. We went through a capital improvement planning process this year. So this budget comes with a recommendation for a 6-year plan for how to upgrade and improve and replace and maintain all of the capital we have in town. The overall cost of that capital improvement plan is in here, and it's not insignificant. As Mark talked about, we've kind of kicked the can down the road a long time on maintaining our investments. It's got the proposed solar array in it, and the anticipated gross appropriation for that, and the bond for the downtown drainage project that we just discussed. And then the last one is small in the scheme of things, but felt like it was worth calling out based on some of the charges we'd been given, which we do have some reduced contributions to nonprofits. So that's the full walkthrough of all the areas. There's a lot here. And there's certainly a lot more detail on the handouts here, but for anybody who's curious about specifics, we can go into those. And that was the quick penny tour.
On page number 5, I wonder why the insurance, workers' compensation and insurance liability, why those numbers aren't included in the regular wages.
For the workers' compensation?
Yeah. Why they're not included in the...
It's a separate line item for that cost with Primex Arterial.
Okay, all right. The other question I had on page 5 was number 177 for equipment, new cemetery. That's the mower you're referring to?
That's the mower, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I had another question on page number 8 and 9. We break down the vehicle maintenance and repair for the ambulance, and then there's equipment maintenance and repair for the ambulance. 2 different line items. I just wondered why that was.
We're talking line 321, Amy, is that?
Yeah, yep. So 321
321
and 324, they seem to be the same.
If I had to guess,
Yeah,
the equipment maintenance is probably defibrillators, power lifts.
Yeah, one's for apparatus, if you will, and
Okay.
all that. And
Yeah.
the other's for our specific equipment, like Zach was saying, AED, stretchers. A lot of our stuff is mechanically inclined and has to be certified to medical spec. So that's a whole nother maintenance budget for that, and we have to pay actually subscription fees to have those constantly maintained and weight tested, et cetera.
okay,
321 is the vehicle,
Yeah.
and 324 is
the
the
equipment.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Why it's very confusing.
Yeah.
That's the basic of it.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And then I just obviously want to advocate for the PEMI Youth Center. You're cutting their funding by $3,000. Parks and Rec specifically asked PYC to change their licensing so that they would no longer have to take 9-year-old students. So we did change our licensing to accommodate a town-specific request. And so we now service 5 youth, and it's about $1,000 a year for the youth to be served. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind.
My name is Claire, and I am the director of the PEMI Youth Center. I just want to piggyback off what Amy said, that although we just have 5 youth that have joined us, and we said $3,000, it's $1,000 per youth. Every day we get calls about youth wanting to join in, and I walk down Main Street when I walk on anywhere, being the new director, and I get, oh my gosh, you run the PEMI Youth Center. Oh my gosh, that's a phenomenal organization. And every single day I get to go in and serve our youth at the youth center and get to do a great thing for every single one of them. And every single bit of money goes towards making Plymouth a better place. And every single youth that we serve is another youth that is off the streets, and we're able to empower them to be like the best they're able to do. And that $3,000 that's being taken away from us is $3,000 less that we're able to help our youth.
The recommendations were put forward not to be mean-spirited. What we tried to do was look at organizations that had the ability to fundraise And if they did, they perhaps could do more fundraising. Not that that's an easy thing to do, or that bake sales pay the electric bill. I understand that they don't. We also looked at, and I guess a question, I know in the past, not recently, that some of the kids that go there are from other communities. It's a fair. So we're wondering if some of the neighboring communities could also help us out.
I'd just like to make a motion, if that's appropriate, to increase the PYC funding by $3,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Everybody, 5? Okay.
We did, yes.
Thank you. We really appreciate it, and so do our youth.
Okay, well, that is all of our hearings.
The planning board met this Thursday night to discuss their schedule for the 2023 year and what their priorities are for the upcoming year. Some announcements for this week. Town Manager Scott Whedon has given his monthly report. In his report, he detailed his excitement in the new position and that he's looking forward to tackling all challenges head on. He also encouraged members of the public to contact him with any concerns or ideas they may have regarding the town. You can contact Scott Whedon at 603-536-1713 at extension 112 or at townmanager@plymouth-nh.org. We have a busy week coming up in terms of meetings here in Plymouth. On Monday, February 6th, the Plymouth School Board will be meeting at 6 p.m. Both the Pemmy Baker Regional School Board and the Plymouth Water and Sewer Commissioners will be meeting Tuesday, February 7th at 5 and 5:30 respectively. And the Select Board will be hosting a special work session on Thursday, February 9th at 5 p.m. The Plymouth Recreation Department announced a list of activities and events that will be taking place during the upcoming February break. Be sure to check out the full schedule for the week and sign up on the Plymouth Recreation Department website. The Recreation Department has also announced that Fox Park Skating Rink is now open. Be sure to head to the Recreation Department website to check out the full hours for the rink. Moving on to the world of sports, the boys basketball team at PRHS took on the Hanover Bears this past Thursday. Unfortunately, it ended up being another loss for the Bobcats with a final score of 20-49. The Plymouth wrestling team is hosting another tournament today, February 4th at 1 p.m. Be sure to catch the tournament live on our YouTube channel and on public access channel 1302. The Bobcat wrestling team will also take on Conval and Kingswood this upcoming Wednesday, February 8th at 6 p.m. The boys basketball team will also be hosting a game next week, Friday, February 10th at 6:30 against Sanborn Regional High School. You can catch both games live on channel 1302 and on our YouTube channel. That will do it for this week's episode of This Week in Plymouth. Remember, if you have any ideas for a show or have stuff you want to put on our show, please contact us at the information on your screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.